Okay, here we are. Um, and by here we are, I mean a few days after I had to say goodbye to Gretel, who, those of you that have been following us for a long time know that, sorry, checking my mic, know that she was what you call my heart dog. Um, I mean, her eyes pierced right through me from the Pet Finder profile the moment I saw her, and I adopted her. And she completely changed my life. My life is way different than it was. So, I mean, my business is built around hiking and camping and enriching my dogs' lives and dachshunds specifically. And I had a dachshund before her, but I didn't actually start my blog and all of that until I adopted her. So, things would not have been where they are without her. So not only was she my beloved adventure buddy and companion and my sweet baby, but she was she was the part of my identity, really. So it's very complicated and multi-layered, and not to discount anyone's grief, but over their pets, but it's very profound. So uh, I made a mistake this morning or this afternoon, and I put on mascara, and I don't know that I should have because I might end up ugly crying a little bit, but I don't think so. If anything, I might sound a little too removed, not emotional for you guys, but I'm really just numb. I'm really just trying not to go there. So, anyway, for those that don't know me, don't know Gretel, because I am recording this for YouTube and Spotify, and both of those platforms are something that I've only really started to do regularly in the last year or so. So a lot of you don't know our backstory, and I will get into that a little bit, I think. But my name's Jessica, and I am the author of the award-winning blog You Did What With Your Wiener, and all of our social channels have stemmed from that. Our podcast is actually named Dachshund's Best Life because, I've started it 14 years after I started my blog. And, over the years, my mission has evolved. And so anyway, now it started out as just about hiking and camping with my dachshunds and has grown to so much more than that. And now I my mission is to help dachshunds around the world live the best life that they can. So to that end, over the last couple of years, I'm also a dachshund sitter. I've been doing that for 10 years. And I've started to work towards a certification in animal behavior. And at the end of this podcast, I'll also talk a little bit about what my next steps are. Moving forward after losing Gretel. But I want to read you something. This is something probably where I'm going to cry. I'm just going to read exactly what I wrote. No. Okay, don't allow. Sorry. The recording wants to show what I wrote to you, and I don't want to do that. I just want to read it. So, but I'm reading it from the computer. So, anyway, I'm just going to read it to you. I wrote this either the evening or the morning after we let her go, and I'm going to try and just take a deep breath and be as neutral as possible about it and just read it like I'm reading a book to somebody, not that it's my life. So here we go. I burst in the bedroom as soon as Doggy Daddy was awake and said, "I think it's time." My heart wasn't ready today. After all, she'd been doing great. The best a 15-year-old dog with kidney disease, IVDD, and possible liver disease could be. We had just returned from the most amazing early season camping weekend. In fact, second winter is here, and we were receiving more snow at our house. but the desert was warm on this particular weekend. I had the strong vision of Gretel getting to sunbathe in nature one more time before we said goodbye, and we were able to do that as a family. But 2 days ago, something changed in a major way. We thought we were going to lose her many times over this last year. Life with a senior dog is not for the faint of heart and is an endless roller coaster, up, down, up, down. We had ridden it with her, but we were also absolutely committed to saying goodbye too soon rather than too late. When she was able to fully enjoy life, we would fight for her. Once life became more struggle than joy, we would make the difficult decision. As we prepared to leave for the veterinary office, the double dose of pain medicine had kicked in. She came to the door and asked me to put her harness on like usual. She wanted to go on the adventure with me like usual. It was bittersweet and gut-wrenching. For the entire 30 minutes driving to the veterinary clinic, I fought the urge to try again for her, to try something else that would keep her with us for longer. I knew that fighting for her was just postponing the inevitable and that she wasn't better. The high dose of painkillers were just masking her symptoms. She was still suffering, but just couldn't feel it as much. This episode was different from the other downs. She was clearly in pain. I'm at the stage of grief now where I'm beating myself up for what I did or didn't do, but I'm trying to resist that. She was doing great until we came home from our trip. I ran out of her special kidney food that I make, so I did what I always do. Frankenstein a lower phosphorus food using regular raw food and adding more carbs and veggies, and then adding the phosphate binder. I used a different protein this time, tripe, which is lower in phosphorus, but it might have been too fatty for her liver, because she also had inklings of liver disease. That's when shit hit the fan. She was crying and panting at one point, but I know better. It wasn't what I fed her that killed her. It was the liver and kidney issues. This outcome was inevitable. I could have fought for her. She looked much better, almost normal after a double dose of gabapentin. Just 2 days earlier, I was consoling a good friend who lost her little adventure dog. Now I was choking on my own advice and trying to accept it. Every time I start to spiral, I have to repeat the mantra, you didn't kill Gretel, kidney disease did, or whatever it was anyway. I wasn't ready to let her go yesterday. I knew it was coming, but also that I would never be ready. I said I wanted to give it a few days to see if she bounced back. She cried in discomfort. I called the vet and accepted an appointment for the same day. I asked for the last appointment of the day to maximize our hours together. Gretel is periodically panting, something she has never done, and a clear sign of pain. I called the vet again and moved the appointment up. Waiting was postponing our suffering, but also extending hers. We gave her the best life that we could. She lived a more adventurous, fulfilled life than most dogs out there. We were committed to also giving her a good death. Whew, so moving on. Sorry, I can't think about it. Just have to move right into what I was going to talk about. Things I've had to remind myself, because so I've had the fortunate or unfortunate experience in my life of dealing with loss and grief many times over, more times than I wanted to, with very important people. In a way, it kind of has given me practice, and over the years, I've learned to predict my process for grieving and just in general and what to expect, and a little bit how to overcome that or work through it. So things that I have to remind myself all the time, it's only been a few days, but even with people, like when my mom died when I was 21, I knew it was coming. She had a chronic illness. She was very sick at the end. We knew it was coming. I tried to say everything to her that my 21-year-old brain could think of. But when she passed, it wasn't enough. There's always more. But you also think over the last days and the last weeks and what could you have said or what should you have done differently or something. And the truth is, you just can't you can't do that. Really, you can't do that. I mean, I'm not judging anyone. Everyone handles it differently. But if there's, one thing I've learned, the point that's been driven home as going over and over it in your head doesn't make it any less real. That is, I think, your body is way, your mind's way of emotionally coping is to go back over. But in the end, personally, it just brings me sadness and misery. And so I've learned to kind of shift to bring myself back from those, because nobody is not going to think those things, but to stop the spiral and to bring myself back and say, I can't change it. She's gone. And so what am I going to do now? So anyway, I have to tell myself no matter what I did or didn't do in those last days or last months, I didn't kill her. She had kidney disease and potentially liver issues, intravertebral disc disease, which is the IVDD I mentioned, cognitive disc decline, and unknowns. We don't know. She could have had cancer. She had some kind of, potentially, I thought it was sight, but neurological issue. We don't know. We didn't pursue a lot of that stuff because we knew kidney disease was the end of the road. There's no coming back from that, and you can manage it. But no matter what else she came down with, and we basically put her on hospice, doggy hospice, and that we wanted to keep her comfortable and living life the best that she could until the end. But we weren't going to do any heroic life-saving measures because it wouldn't have mattered in the end. There's no treatment for kidney disease, like no fix. I mean, in humans, yes, you can get a kidney transplant. They don't do that in dogs. Not that I'm aware of anyway. And we wouldn't have tried. We wouldn't have tried. So, I also have to remind myself that, I did the best I could. Did I make some mistakes along the way? Yes. I can rest easy that one mistake I did not make was keeping, even though it was killing me inside, I did not keep her around for my benefit. I sacrificed my feelings. And as devastated as I was, I had to put that aside and I put her first. And that I can be really proud of. Sorry. I wanted to record this today because I need to do it when I still have all the feels and it's still very fresh, but at the same time, it's got, it's a fine balance between long enough that you're not going to fall apart, but soon enough that it's not just a cold, distant memory. Not that it ever will be. She will always be in my heart, and I will talk about that at the end. So my doggy daddy and I had talked about, especially after we lost our first dachshund, but I think just in general over the years when it comes to ourselves and our human loved ones and our pets, that I especially, but my husband also, are, I have like a hair in my eye, are advocates for dying well. A good death. It's what I like to call it, although I'm sure I did not coin the phrase. Absolutely sure I did not, but I like it. And so that's what I use. And it differs what that means. If it's a human or a pet. One thing I really struggled with my first Dachshund Chester was that he was going through dementia the same time my grandpa was. And both of their bodies and minds were failing. But I could make the choice for Chester to set him free and let him go, but I could not do that for my grandpa. And so then I felt guilty for choosing that for Chester because I was not able to choose that for my grandpa, but also conflicted and a bit angry because, I mean, obviously there's ethical reasons why I can't choose to let a loved one go. And we are in Washington State and are fortunate to have the death with dignity law, where if you have a terminal illness, you can choose to get medicine from your doctor that you can take if the pain or whatever gets too much and you're done. But I'm not going to go into it on this podcast, but it's wonderful to have the option. It's not as easy as you think. There are laws and rules that have to be followed, and it's complicated. And one of those is that only the person who is ill can make that decision, and you have to be in a solid state of mind to do it. And when it became time that we knew his time was limited enough to qualify for that option, mentally he did not. So anyway, a lot of conflict and stuff, but we are very adamant about minimizing suffering. Respecting in humans, a good death means respecting the dying person's wishes, which is another thing that's extremely complicated for people and pets, because whether we like to hear it or not, in every state I am aware of, pets are considered property, not sentient human beings, or beings. So we can make the decisions for them when they live and when they die. Breeders, bring dogs into the world, and we choose when to let them go. So you can't really respect your dying pet's wishes in the same way you can your dying human family members' wishes. However, I would argue that no pet wants to suffer. No pet wants to suffer. No pet wants to live a diminished quality of life that they're not enjoying. Dogs, can't talk to us, but I would guarantee you if they could, that's what they would say. Animals live in the moment, and they don't remember when they're feeling bad that they felt fine yesterday or an hour ago even, probably. Gretel doesn't remember that she had a wonderful camping weekend where she got to hike around. It was easy-ish for her, but hike around for 2 miles. We carried her the rest of the way. She got to lay in the sun. In the moment when she was doing those things, I could see the joy in her because she was doing really well. We're shocked that it took such a rapid turn and decline, quote unquote, at the end, but we could have chosen it not to be the end and got more tests and got more procedures and given her more medication. But we didn't anyway. So I feel like we respected her wishes, what she would have wanted, because in the moment she was feeling bad, and I guarantee you she was not enjoying it. Also, for humans, maintaining dignity and comfort. Again, I wouldn't say that pets experience the human emotion of dignity, but it's more from our perspective. At least I know I can't speak directly for anyone else, but in my experience, people I've talked to would rather remember our pets at their best, at least not at their worst, somewhere in between there. We have to draw the line, and we want to see, our pets have comfort up until the end, not be in discomfort. So I would say that a good death for your pet is choosing as a pet owner to let them go with dignity and comfort. Another one is living well until the end. And, there's the lap of love has a quality, I even forget what it's called right now. It's a quality of life assessment. And you give a score for what has changed from when your dog was healthy to now, and it lets you know how diminished their quality of life is, and where it's an objective way to maybe tell you where they're at and maybe when to draw the line. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from people, but I am absolutely sure there's at least one person out there that sees that we took Gretel hiking the weekend before she passed away, before her health rapidly declined, and might judge me for it and might think that, well, maybe that was too hard on her. Maybe that was too hard on her body or her organs or whatever. And I shouldn't have done that, but I absolutely 100% am glad that I did, because she lived well, as in her whole entire life, up until the end. Adventure with us in nature, doing what dogs do, just doing dog stuff. Like, there's no greater joy, I think, for a dog than that. And I'm glad that she had that weekend, and it was kind of a quick decline. I mean, it had been, like I said, a lot of up and downs over the years. So if you want to get technical, she'd been declining for a long time. It started about 2 years ago. But there's a difference between like old dog health changes and, whoa, something's going on, something's wrong. So, I mean, I really believe the best last thing you can do for your dog is to be completely not selfish, selfless. And oh my God, it is gut wrenching. It is terrible. It's like a freight train coming that you can't get out of the way, but yet you don't want it to come. You're trying to will it away. You just can't. It's immeasurable. It's the grief when, your hurt dog, especially, you've got to let them go. But I just had to keep telling myself, you are going through this pain and this grief and this turmoil for her. You are being noble for her. You are giving her the greatest gift, which is to die a good death and end her life with dignity. And that's something I can be proud of. I have heard from a lot of people, even just a friend this morning. In hindsight, they felt like they waited too long. And I honestly don't think we waited too long with Gretel, but I think had I tried again this time, I might have felt that way. And out of all the guilt I could feel about deciding to let her go, being that I didn't let her pass naturally at home, which is a whole nother topic to me. But another topic just because, we think, oh, they'll pass in their sleep at home. But it's most often is not like that. It's a much more drawn out, grueling experience for everyone involved. But anyway, I put her needs above ours. And despite my anguish, I was able to make the decision that my brain knew I needed to make. So, what's ahead for us? Obviously, I have 2 dachshunds that are very much with us and in the prime of their life, doing well. And I am a dachshund sitter. I mean, like I said, I had a dachshund before Gretel, but I didn't start the blog until her. But also, the blog isn't just about her. The mission has evolved over time to be about helping dachshunds around the world. And that mission has not changed. If anything else, it has strengthened, because I don't want Gretel to be forgotten in my heart and in the minds of people. And I don't think just because she's physically gone, she can't continue to help people. And she can help people by me sharing her story of how she changed my life and just her life and our adventure stories. She can continue to inspire people and uplift people. And, I want to do that. The other thing I was thinking about before we even chose to put her to sleep is something I've wrestled with over the years. Is, like I said, I've had a lot of experience with death and grief, and that's unfortunate. But I have learned to see it as a gift also, because a lot of people don't have the skills to be able to, like, my friends and family know me. I'll talk about death openly. It doesn't scare me to talk about it. I will talk about, obviously, there are few things I keep to myself that I don't want to burden other people with, but I'm okay talking about emotions and grief and the reality of it and what you're really feeling. And I think that too many people are afraid to talk about that. Um, Maybe because they aren't comfortable with this death and grieving process. So I had thought about, 10 years ago, I thought about taking this experience because I don't want me to have suffered my life, living in grief, I think more often than not, and, and let it go to waste, I guess, to let it, I don't know. Anyway, I thought, how can I use this to help others? And at one point, I thought about becoming a human death doula, where I help families through the dying process of their loved ones. The semantics as well as the emotional, and it's like a. I thought of doulas as like only for pregnancy, but doula I think just means guide. So I thought about that, but I absolutely decided no because my life has been about losing my loved ones, my human loved ones, and I don't want to dedicate the rest of my life to that also. I just can't live in that place. I know I can help people, but I can't make it my life. I just can't because I need breaks in between to recover. So, um, but that was something I thought of at one time. And then before Gretel passed, even a few weeks ago, I had discovered that now maybe it's just, they've been around for a long time. I think it is, well, I know it's gaining in popularity because I've listened to some podcasts recently and read some articles where it's mentioned that pet end of life or pet death doulas as a career field kind of is growing. And I thought about it and I thought that's how I can use all of my experience is to help people with their pets. Because to me, I know this sounds bad, but like when I'm talking to someone about their loved one dying, I go right back to losing my mom or my grandma or my stepdad or all of those people. And it's it's hard. It's really hard. And yes, if I'm talking to someone like my friend recently about losing their pet, I remember the pets that I've lost and what that experience was like, but for some reason it doesn't, I think of them fondly and I miss them, but it doesn't hurt like it was yesterday to me with pets. Some people it does, and that's okay, but it doesn't for me. And so I do think that a pet death doula is something I could do, and I think I'd be good at it. I've had like I've received feedback from people I've talked to about the decision for their pet and the decision for treatment and when to let them go and how to handle it and all of these things. And I'll just say that it's been affirming for me that people appreciate my insight and appreciate my experience and appreciate the way I can listen and offer non-judgmental guidance and stuff. So now that Gretel's gone, I think I'm more committed to doing that than ever. I still like the dog training and behavior. I don't plan to make that my whole business. I'm never going to just hang my hat, shingle, whatever you want to call it, and say, I am a dog trainer and that's all I do, because that's not all I do. I've never been a person that does one thing. But the thing is over the years, people that follow us and see what I do with my dogs and how I treat my dogs and everything have asked me for advice, and that includes behavior and training advice, and it includes pet grief advice. And so I feel like I'm still going to pursue my certification in dog behavior, but but I also think doing this pet end of life doula thing would be good, because what this does is it rounds out my skills and kind of goes deeper and more formal in areas that I have been helping some people with already, and will allow me to help even more people with that. So I will be pursuing that, like, likely soon, if if not by the end of the year. And I am, as part of that, I am, again, like, I understand grief is so individual, and the beliefs about life and death is so individual. I can see all sides, and I'm able to step back and not judge anybody. Saying, with having said that, I am unequivocally 100%, no bones about it, adamant that pets should not suffer. I've had people tell me, well, I just want my pet to die at home. And like I said, in a majority of cases, that is, if your pet has gotten to the point that they're dying at home, they've been struggling for quite a while. Now, I do believe, like with humans, there is, I think, medication you can get from your vet. Like, there isn't an official program, but some vets may be open, because it's not a legal issue like it would be with a human, may be open to, I don't know. I'm not going to say this because I don't want to get any vets in trouble, but I've been told there are ways to keep your pet comfortable at home so they can die peacefully. I would not go that route. I just had a friend whose dog died at home in their sleep, and that's fine, But if I know, like, Gretel has kidney disease, I wasn't going to just wait around until she passed at home. So, I would like to help people maybe realize sooner than later that maybe it is the time, and they may want to let go. So I want to help them through the process. And also how to make, so a pet death doula, like, I'm still looking into it, but basically, it's like talking them through the last few months or time of their pet's life, and when is the right time to let them go. What are they seeing? What is quality of life like? I mean, obviously I'm not a veterinarian, and they would need to be working with a veterinarian. My advice would not replace that, but I could be another party that could, that isn't a veterinarian, that can help them navigate their feelings about that, and maybe see things a little clearer than they are on their own. But also, then it's the process. Like, I've been asked, and I'll probably do, I am going to do an episode later on pet grief, because pets can grieve for, and usually do in some aspect, for the lost pets. But help them through the process. Like, one of the biggest questions is, do I let my other pets sniff my dog once they've passed? And when Chester passed, we did not do that. I'm not sorry. I don't honestly think it would have made a humongous difference, but this time I did, for various reasons. And that's a whole, I'll save it for the other podcast, but I did. And so I have experienced both ways. And I think in the end it comes more down to the human and what you need. But it is, I think it can be helpful for pets to see, because they can sense. I think it was really weird, even, I wouldn't say weird, but like, so there's this favorite bed. Gretel liked to sleep in the bed. When no one was in the bed, Otter loved to chew it and shake it around. And for, quote unquote, some reason, the day before we let her go, when her health had already been failing, he decided to grab onto the bed and try and shake it around, but she was in there. And it's like he acted like she wasn't even in there. And that was different and a little bit strange. And I'm not sure. I take it as a sign that it was time, but there was some dynamic going on there. But a death doula also can help someone work through how they want to ritualize the passing of their pet in a way that will be the most meaningful for them. And I do think that's important for keeping them in your heart and important for moving on. In our case, you know, we did what was meaningful for us at the time. I don't have plans. We are getting a private cremation for her. I will have her ashes. I actually still have Chester's ashes downstairs. I don't know what I'm going to do. I probably will in some way spread her ashes. I'm not sure at this point. I mean, I'm not keeping them in an urn, I don't think, but well, I know I'm not because that's just not me. But I don't know if I'm going to take a portion of her ashes and get it made into like you can get a blown glass, a glass paperweight or something, or you can buy little necklaces. If you've seen those necklaces that have like gold flakes in them, like at a gift store, like in Alaska, where people find gold. Well, you can get those and you can fill it with your pet's ashes, and that's something you can wear around your neck. That's also not me, but it might be for some people. So I am going to have to think what I'm going to do with her ashes, what would be most meaningful to me, and then also thinking about how to move past the experience and the grief. And for me, that usually means making it mean something. Like I said, I want Gretel to be able, I want to keep her memory alive, and I want her to be able to do what she's always done, help change people's relationships with their dachshund and their dachshund's lives. And I don't want that to end just because she has ended. So, you know, even before she passed, I again was thinking about, the pet death doula and really thinking about our blog and our tagline. And you can message me on Instagram or Facebook and let me know. Our Facebook page, it's You Did Both or You Did What with Your Wiener. Don't ask me why. Or you can, and I'll send you a blog post that says why. But Facebook, it's spelled WEINER, and it's actually You Did What with Your Wiener.com. But everything else is spelled the proper German spelling of Wiener, WIENER. So that's our Instagram account. But you can message us there. There is a way to leave a comment on Spotify. I don't know. We're on Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music. I don't know what you can do there, but I guarantee you I'm not looking at that because I don't use those. I use Spotify myself. So anyway, you can let me know what you think of this new tagline, but helping your dachshund live their best life at every age. Or I thought every stage. Or I thought, my initial thought was helping your dachshund live their best life beginning to end, but I felt like I'm comfortable with saying that. But I think a lot of people, that might sounds too morbid. But that's honestly what it is. But age could work. I think my favorite is stage, because there really are phases to a dog's life. There's like the puppy phase, which is obviously like there's the early puppy phase, but dogs actually remain puppies. Dachshunds remain puppies because it depends on the size, how fast they mature, but until at least about a year and a half, sometimes up to 2, is puppy phase. And then there's the adult, well, then there's teenage. We can get into that after puppy. So a year and a half, a little over a year to 2 years or so is like the teenage phase. And then there's the adult phase, which is the majority of their life. But then there is their senior phase, which with small dogs, Chester, you can kind of tell when your dog turns into a senior. There's just an overnight switch to something different. And I didn't feel like Chester, he lived to be almost 16. I didn't feel like Chester made that switch. I I believe he was 13. Up until then, he just seemed like a normal, healthy adult dog. He didn't even have that much gray. So, there's that. But with Gretel, her her big change came around like 12, I think. So, I don't know. I can't remember the timing, but the point being, you kind of know, at least when you're practicing at looking at it or have a keen eye and have done a lot of research and stuff, when your dog kind of becomes a senior, and that is another phase of their life. So another stage of their life. So I kind of like that one, stage versus age or beginning to end, because age makes me think every different year, but I'm really talking about early puppy, teenager, adult, and senior. Um, But anyway, I'm also thinking about other ways I can keep her alive in my memory and my heart and other people's. And I've threatened to write a book on and off we've lived in this house here for 6 years. And it was when we lived at our old house. So we're talking probably 7 years. I've been threatening to write a book, but honestly, I couldn't. It was more of like utilitarian, like practical. I want to write a book and it'd be like more of a step by step, matter of fact. And just didn't feel super passionate about it. But now I think about Gretel and I thought, you know what? Maybe I'm finally going to write that book, because I can combine what I wanted to combine before, like adventure stories um, and ways that I think dachshunds' lives can be improved and lessons that I've learned, but also tell that story in the context of a memoir that is about how adopting Gretel completely changed my life, and potentially even towards the end of the book, how my life continues to change because of her, even though she's no longer around. So I've gotten through this. Like I said, I'm going to do a pet grief one. This is one of my first times recording this video for YouTube as a vlog, but I will be uploading it to Spotify, so you may be listening there. Obviously, I didn't mention, give me feedback on Instagram or Facebook, but hey, if you're watching the video on YouTube, just go ahead and leave a comment there, what you think about the tagline, or if you have any questions about this, or, what I've said, got your kind of mental gears turning, any thoughts, just let me know. I still want to help people. I still want Gretel to help people. So I'm happy to share my experience and answer any questions. So thank you for listening. I've continued to try and get into a 1 week schedule, on this podcast and our vlog, but that obviously hasn't happened, and I can't beat myself up for it, and I'm going to stop apologizing, because now it's just getting ridiculous because I'm apologizing almost every time and committing almost every time to doing it every week, and that is not happening. So I'm a learn to be a firm believer in everything happens when it's supposed to happen, how it's supposed to happen at the time it's supposed to happen. And so I am doing my best. I am very passionate about, I love my blog. It'll always be my baby. That's how everything got started. I won't be abandoning it. I won't be closing it down. I will still continue to add information there and respond to comments and stuff. But I think really the new frontier for me is vlogging and podcasting, because it's a different way to reach an audience with information that I've already kind of put out there. And I enjoy just this conversation that we have. I do like writing, but I also obviously like talking. But my friends will tell you I like talking. But I do know how to listen. I can turn talking off if needed be. I know when it's appropriate. Anyway, I just enjoy talking about this and, rambling, if I will. Some people don't like to listen to the rambling, so I will be turning some of these, and some people just like to read, so I'll be turning some of these into blog posts, like you either taking the transcript or just writing a separate blog post on the topic. But anyway, I appreciate you listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. Again, my website is youdidwhatwithyourwiener.com. And if you live in the Seattle area and you're interested in your dachshunds coming to stay at my house, I specialize in long term. Next, I have one that Brody. He's here now, and he comes back often. And sometimes he's here now for a week. He'll be home for a week, and then he'll be back for 6 weeks. So I specialize in long term stays. And also, like I said, I do behavior consulting, but I'm also happy. Just email me or reach out if you need to talk through, anything about your dachshund's health, especially loss and senior dachshunds, but also diet. And I'm huge on enrichment, especially natural enrichment, because I consider hiking enrichment's a hot topic nowadays, but it basically to me means let your dog do dog things. Give them opportunities to do dog things, like fulfill their needs. I guess that's a new punchline for enrichment. Let your dog do dog things. But basically, that's what it is. It's not complicated. It may be complicated to fit it into your busy life in a way that works for you and your dog in a regular basis. But anyway, I digress. But thank you for being here and listening, and I am going to go now.